Okay, so every now and then when you're looking to collect something new and interesting for your vintage collection, you come across something really special. This is one of those cases, and I guess I could say that, since I have quite an extensive collection, I'm no longer really interested in just buying like just another RC10 or just another Kyosho laser and rebuilding it all over again. I think at this point it's fair to say that if I'm going to get another car, I want it to be, let's say, fewer and farther between, but more meaningful. So this is a prototype A&L chassis that was actually raced at the 1991 IFMAR World Championships in Detroit. This was hand-built by Chris Alec himself and raced by Chris Alec himself. And I got this and several other parts and things that I'll go through with you so you can see what came with this, and I'll also talk about my plans for this car. So getting straight to it, this wing here is actually a wing I believe to be specific to this chassis, this prototype chassis. I could be wrong on that. But he did send me, because I bought this from Chris himself, he did send me a couple of other new and packaged wings. So it's a ribbed concept wing. So I guess they did actually sell these, but it appears that it was used on the 91 Worlds car. The body is not the original body that he used at the Worlds. This is a different body. So that's like, among the other things I'll be doing to restore this, that's one thing I'll have to sort out is getting, I don't know actually if I want to do like an exact replica of the paint scheme that he had used. Maybe, maybe not, we'll see. But anyway, let's get this body off here. And here's the chassis. Now, to the untrained eye, you could say it does look a bit like the Composite Craft chassis, which was an upper and lower deck chassis with narrow nose, wide arms, right, narrow rear chassis, wide arms as well. Very similar to the Nix 91, very similar to the Kyosho Triumph. Right, they were all thematically similar, but each one was different in its own way. Like these arms are really wide, both front and rear. These arms are really wide. Okay, so that's one feature. The lower deck is a solid lower deck. At least that's what he had used at the Worlds. I can show you some of the other stuff that was sent, and two of the other chassis that he sent. The lower deck actually had cutouts in it to lighten the chassis. Okay, there's all these standoffs here. Upper deck, there's your battery plate. And the battery cups are your conventional RC10 battery cups, but they were cut out, I guess, for some extra lightning. I assume this is the original servo. Little hard to tell what manufacturer it is. Might have been a KO Pro, but I'm not 100% sure. Because the text, all I see is like a 31S sort of lettering or numbering here on the front of the servo, but whatever branding was on there is either worn off or faded off or whatever. Other electronics, the Novak NER 3FM, I believe that's the original receiver, although the speed control is a replacement. This is just a Novak 1. For the actual Worlds competition, he used an M1C. I do have one of those coming in, although I'm not 100% sure if it's the exact right version of the M1C. There were like 3 variants of the M1C. So it should be close, though. The motor, not entirely sure what motor that is. I'd have to actually take it out to see. Because there aren't, I can't see enough of the letters here to read it. But maybe a better trained eye would know what that motor is. But it's got a Yokomo end bell. Okay, so how do I want to walk through this? Why don't we, I guess we'll start in the back. A&L lethal weapon transmission. So this is like a belt drive transmission, and that feeds out to Yokomo universals across a custom arm. I believe these are Delrin arms. And then this is looks like an RC10 wheel hub, although the top here was shaved a bit. Okay, possibly, I don't know if the hole is a new hole, but certainly there was a lot of material shaved off here. This goes out to Yokomo wheel hubs with apparently an extra spacer, maybe to get as much width as possible on the car. So that's a very interesting feature here. This little, I guess, is a Delrin spacer, some kind of plastic spacer. Okay, so as you probably know, Masami was known for running Yokomo wheels on the rear of his older RC10s. So this kind of follows that theme. As for the slipper clutch, I assume that's an A&L type of slipper clutch that mates with the Lethal Weapon gearbox. Okay, fine. The rear bulkhead assembly is kind of interesting. So there's this thing here. I'm not exactly sure. It looks like some parts were borrowed from other chassis. I'm not 100% sure if this rear shock tower mount was a custom made part or if it came from something else and it was cut up in a certain way. But you can tell quite clearly that the rear shock tower itself also has the rear camber link mounting hole. On a more conventional vintage RC10, the bulkhead has the camber link mounting point. The shock tower is completely separate. Okay, the transmission brace has a ton of holes cut out in it. That seems to be a pretty common feature for some of this stuff, like the front shock tower, for example. There's a lot of holes here, right? All to reduce weight, it seems. This little guy here looks like it's kind of like a standoff for a body mount post to hold the body down. So that is a custom part, I believe. And of the other cars that I got from him, they also have this, but they're slightly different cuts. So this is a specific part. I think there's only one of these among the other two that I have. What else is kind of interesting? Looks like they have Technocraft turnbuckles going to the front. As you can tell, this caster block is so old and brittle, it just snapped. They may have snapped in shipping, I'm not sure. Not a big worry though, because at least from the pictures that I've seen so far, again, when running at the World, I believe he had used the black caster blocks, which are the 30-degree caster blocks. So I'm going to be replacing these anyway with black units. Let's see, is there anything else that I missed? Actually, one neat feature here on the back is the way the wing mount looks. So you have, your typical wing mount piece here that's very similar to the Yokomo YZ10 wing mounts. And it kind of mounts a bit like that too. He's got this wing wire that goes out and then forward and then back again. So that must have been a nightmare to do, because what that essentially means is you paint your wing, you get the hole set up, you do the wing wire, and then after the wing is mounted, you have to bend all this stuff. That means if you got to replace the wing, you can't just slide the wing wire off. You're basically replacing this whole thing with the wing wire. Or you have to, maybe cut the wing wire here in the back so you can, slide it out this way or something. So that's kind of interesting. Basically, that's like that wing is on a suicide mission. A&L steering rack, obviously, that's an A&L car. The front bulkhead is a low-C bulkhead that was cut down and narrowed. I don't know exactly what model. That was maybe, I guess, a JRX that they used that for. And I think I have one or two more of these cut, which will be helpful for later. And then we have a couple of camber link mounting points here on the front tower. Again, this is all custom cut, custom made. Okay. What else is interesting? Well, we got the arms. No bumper, it seems, or if there is one, it's extremely worn out. Okay, fine. Shocks look like conventional associated gold body shocks, so these are going to take a bit of cleaning for sure. It looks like they have these aluminum collars here for spacing, although on the back there's no such aluminum collars here. They do look worn, but what's interesting is, again, I only have one or two pictures of this that I've seen from back in the day. The amount of wear that's on these bodies is consistent with the picture of this car from the 91 Worlds. So my guess is that these shocks were already well used before they were taken with this car to the 91 Worlds. So I don't intend on replacing these shocks with new shiny shocks. I'll just clean them up. What else do we have here that's kind of noteworthy? I mean, it's a two-wheel drive buggy. There's really not much to say. That is interesting. So the way that this steering rack is set up, so you have the drag link here, and then you have this arm here for the bell crank arm for the rack, and that on that side as well. But there's an extra block going down to the bottom with an extension out, and that's where you have your camber link mounting hole. It's down there. If I remember correctly, I'd have to go and get out one of my other cars to confirm this, but the more modern A&L racks may have a similar geometry, but it's only one part. It's not two parts like this. So this is a very unique piece here. And what else do we have? That's kind of it. I guess some spacers here. Kind of interesting. So what am I... okay, so there's a lot to talk about here. So there's that. What else do we have? We have one chassis here. This has the rack, but with a completely different drag link setup, as you can see. And there's no that extra part that comes out of the bottom of either side of the bell crank. That's not there. This one has a kick-up. Yep, that one has a kick-up too. The chassis, the upper deck looks to be the same, but the bottom, as you can see, has cutouts. Different shocks. Same arms, right? Same wheel hubs and everything. Same lethal weapon gearbox. The actual mounts for the inner hinge pins, that's actually a good point. This mount here looks, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but that might actually be a Kyosho part, like a Kyosho Triumph or something. So, some parts were clearly borrowed from other cars to make it all work, which is totally fine and cool. This piece here, it looks like it's, might be, is that aluminum? No, that's plastic. Flexible, probably Kydex or something very similar to that. It just mounts to the bottom here. I believe, yeah, it mounts under the rear hinge pin mount, and then it just wraps all the way around the motor and goes up to the transmission brace. Same thing here. Okay, and the shock tower setup in the rear is very similar, although this has more cutout holes than let's say the one used at the Worlds. This has only one camber link mounting hole. This looks like it has a few, although it's hard to see from the bag, but I see 3 holes. There's 1, 2, and there's another one down there. So this is actually technically a different car. Again, this was a prototype car. So, they were experimenting with a bunch of different things, which is really cool. And then this one here, this doesn't have a gearbox, but it has, the bulkhead, the tower, the transmission brace, upper and lower deck. Again, the lower deck on this one has cutouts that are, they look to be the same as the kinds of cutouts on this one. And the steering rack, again, the drag link on this is the same as on this one, but it's different than the one used on the actual, runner, let's say. Front tower, as you can see, has all these holes in it. Those aren't for mounting shocks. Those are just cutouts, presumably to save weight. This particular tower appears to have 3 adjustment holes. And the tower that was used on the actual car also has 3 holes up here, so that's consistent. And we do have, as you can see, the cut low-C bulkhead on the front there. This one is missing it. Okay, fine. So here, let me just put this over here. He gave me a bunch of stuff with all this. This here, oh, that's just the radio that he used. Okay, a JR R756. We got a bunch of parts here. What else we got? We got aside a bunch of wings. So these wings will be great because when I restore this, well, I think for this one I'll keep the original wing because that's the original wing. Unless I have any picture evidence of it not being the original wing, in which case I have backups, which is fantastic. Some old wheels and tires. I'm not sure if these were the ones that he actually used at the race. I don't think they were. So yeah, we'll see. I'll try to find pictures of what specific Yokohama rims and tires he used. As you can see, these have a deep dish offset. So these were for the 870C. These were more for like the 91 Works models for the YZ10. So I'm going to try to get the correct rims if I don't already have them. So he just sent me like a couple of them. He did mention in the listing that I think one of the rims broke. It might have been the corresponding one to this, and so he just threw something else on there for the time being. What do we got here? More wings. This is a different wing. That's just standard 6-inch wing. Okay, fine. And of course a battery. Don't really care about the battery, to be honest. What else? That's kind of it. There's something else in there that's, this is basically, it looks like this is what he used to make the actual wing itself. You see the ridges here? So this would be for, I guess that's the cast. I think that's what you would call it, for molding the wing. I have plans for that. So, what parts are in this bag? Well, I can only do this with one hand here. Hold on a second. So, I'm going to put these wings away while we're at it. Put these back in the box. Pop. So these parts, we got clearly some gearbox casings and other things. So this is nice pink painted cover for a Lethal Weapon gearbox. Yellow casing, very cool. I like neon yellow stuff. Another gearbox cover. Some extra steering racks. So we got one, we got some more. We have some front arms. Alright, take a look at that. What else do we have? We have the motor plate that would go with gearbox, some shock towers. So this would be a rear tower, completely different front tower. That's pretty wild. I mean, compared to this, very different. Again, he's experimenting. And this one has 4 camber link mounting holes, as you can see. And these custom cuts, well, let's see. Yeah, there you go. Those are very custom cuts. And those holes are very close together. I don't think that would, if you're a professional driver, maybe that could work. But there's so little material between those holes. If you crash once with that thing, it's probably going to rip it apart. This one's like a blank, no holes at all. So I guess this would have been maybe a template that he used. Or maybe something he was going to cut holes in to experiment with if he needed to. And then we have a JRX2 bulkhead. That's what it is. So if you wanted to cut that, you could. And he has, it looks like, this must be the motor guard that wraps around. Okay, this is half of a bulkhead. And we have some other stuff in here. Another arm, I believe that's a front arm. So we have, what, 3 front arms. And, you know, we have, you can see, well, maybe you can't see it here. I won't bother getting everything out. Some drivetrain parts for the gearbox, some bell crank stuff, some, you know, universals, Yakima universals. What is it? Steering caster block and a steering knuckle. Okay, just, you know, stuff. So, what is my plan for this? Clearly, this one I want to restore. I want to, you know, make it look nice. And I want to do a faithful restoration. I don't know exactly how perfect it's going to be, but, you know, clearly this thing needs some love. So I just, at the very least, I want to take it apart, clean it, put it back together, replace anything that's broken, and that's kind of it. Because, you know, again, this, I don't want to modify this in any way because it's a historic car. So for this specific car, I don't want to do too much. You know, maybe if I could find like the correct motor that was used on this car, you know, maybe if I'm in the mood, I'll, you know, get a body painted to the exact paint scheme that was used on that car. Those sorts of details. That would be a really nice project. And for these two, you know, one of these I'll probably make a runner. That would be very cool. And in that case, I would do something a bit more custom, you know, put some more modern parts on those to make it, you know, I guess more different, make it a little stronger in certain areas. And then, crucially, what I really want to do is to get this car actually produced. This was a prototype car that A&L never actually produced. So I'm going to be sending as many parts as necessary to my friend Jeff, who is now the current owner of A&L Factory Works. And we're going to see how many of these things can be reproduced to make a set, so that for people who want to build this or something very similar to this, they can do so. They'll have all the chassis plates and, you know, shock towers and whatever else that, you know, can be managed to be produced or reproduced. That would be really cool because, you know, I want to work specifically with Jeff because this is an A&L car. It's an A&L prototype car, so I think, you know, he should be the guy to offer this if anyone's going to offer it. So I'm looking forward to this. For those who are really interested in this car and who really want to, like, get parts for this, just please have some patience, okay? This project is going to take time. I don't want you guys up my ass asking for parts. Who can I go to? Blah, blah, blah. Just shut up, okay? It'll be ready when it's ready. And I want to do it right, and it's going to take some time, okay? But in the meantime, you know, gosh, I got to figure out what I want to do next and which parts to send out. I'll get that all sorted out in time. And I also still have other projects to do, like my ZXS. I still haven't even started that yet. So there's going to be some cool stuff going on here. Anyway, I hope you find this interesting, and I think this will be a really nice journey for everybody. So thanks for watching.